What we're rising up against, it is an unseen reality. It is not people.
Right.
It is very important to understand that. What we're rising up against is an unseen reality. It is a system that has been put in place that many call God, that really comes more to do damage than it does to enhance the growth of the kingdom. Sometimes, it's amazing how we say in the workforce in the world, there's two things you can't talk about in the workforce or our society, right? It's politics and religion, right? Well, in the church, there's two things that sadly now you can't talk about. There's doctrine and church practices. On Sundays is the biggest day of the week where the Lord feels the most disrespected. It's Sundays. Sundays is the most disrespectful day of Christ out of all of the rest of the week. You want to know why that is? The reason why it is because the one thing that he set aside for himself.
Oh, we don't tell you that. Okay.
The one thing that he didn't want to do for himself, that he left for his people to do for him. The people have taken that one thing and made it for themselves. And that is truly praise and worship of the Lord. So look at how we've made that a show. We've made what we call praise and worship for the people. Yeah. So God feels disrespected because that was for him. Not for the people. Because see, the order of service, we really should say is the structure of service. Because it's a man-made thing that we put in place to make sure that the people enjoy when they come. This is why, when we talked about earlier, if you look at most churches, how they set up because they set up to enjoy the production. And what we do every week, we literally put on a performance.
That's right.
That we ask them to pay for.
Yes.
And I've often said this. The only difference in between a church service and a concert is we ask you to pay twice. Is church the way most of us do it? Hadn't always been done this way.
That's right.
But to us, because it precedes our birthday, and because grandmama did it and Bishop did it, God bless their souls. I'm not saying they were evil. But because we were born in it, and this has always been what it is to us, we feel this has to be the valid way to do church. We have mistaken majority and longevity for validity. Because church has been done this way for so long, and everybody does church this way, it has to be the valid way to do ministry. Why? Because it precedes our birthday. So we defend things that we have grown accustomed to first. One of the things that I teach and I go over is the power of the first lie. We normally like to believe what we hear or experience or come accustomed to first. That's one of the things about gossip that's so bad. Because you normally believe the one that's closest to you that get in your ear first. But one of the things I told the Lions Church is we have to be discerning. Because sometimes the perpetrator could be the one that gets your ear first.
That's right.
Church folks are some of the most gullible people. We copy everything we see. But one of the problems about the praise and quote-unquote worship team is if you stand a group of people up here before you to sing and praise and worship, or what they call lead you into praise and worship, something happens. For one, they're fighting against what they're trying to promote. For this reason, we have gone for corporate participation, but we have not understood the importance of corporate focus. But there's a dilemma, because when I'm up here and I say I'm a praise and worship team, I create a problem. Because now I just giving you a choice of who you want to focus on. So am I focusing on you singing, or am I really focusing on him? And not only that, it also creates a dilemma for those who's supposed to be the leaders. Because either they're focusing on you not worshiping, or they're worshiping. And when they're truly worshiping, they're not fat. They don't even see what you are not doing. We create a dilemma because we have our superstars in the same place with the one who proclaims the word. Because guess what? The difference between praise and worship and the word of God is what? Praise and worship is for who?
God.
But the word is for who?
The people.
So it's okay if the man of God wants to proclaim the word in this state. Because guess what? What he's proclaiming is not for God. He got that for God to give to you.
Amen.
But why is it that we try to present praise and worship in the same way to you when it's not for you?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's not for you. Or everybody knows somebody who have kids, right? Little kids. And the whole neighborhood know they're terrible kids, except the parents think they're the best kids in the world. How many of us know people like that right now? You say, I just babysat them last week. They have the worst kids on the block, but the parents don't see it. They're like, man, my kids are some of the best little angels ever. And you smile at them and be like, if only you knew. Right? Why is that? It's because parents are blinded by the fact that they're their kids.
Right.
Same thing for our churches.
Yeah.
Everybody think their church is on the cutting edge. Everybody think their church is the next best thing since sliced bread. We are doing what Jesus required us to do, right? Why? Because we're blinded by the fact that they are our churches. I remember my wife and I, we visited the Civil Rights Museum downtown. How many of us did that? Anybody? Well, wonderful place. One of the things that struck me on our tour was they was informing us about how it was even in Greensboro and actually throughout the country when the Greensboro Four had their sit-in movement and different things like that. And actually when we talked with my wife's father, who is from here, and he remembered those times as well, one of the things that struck me is that there were even African Americans that hated what they were doing. Now the Greensboro Four, the other people who was trying to bring change in the civil rights movement and different things of that nature, they were fighting for the rights of African Americans and of course other types of people, right?
Sure.
But what is it? What made the people that they were fighting for hate them and hate what they were doing? The reason why there were even African Americans hating not only what Dr. Martin Luther King were doing, but also what the Greensboro Four were doing, is because they said, you're messing up stuff. Because we have gotten to a place where we have found comfort in bondage. We have been accustomed to bondage so long, we have found how to rest in it. You want to come and bust that up, causing trouble.
Wow. That's good.
But because look at this guy. He is sleeping, but he's bound.
Wow.
Now while he's in dream, listen, that's uncomfortable. It may look uncomfortable to us who are alive and remain, but he's banded up. But guess what? He is in an uncomfortable position. He's in bondage. But he found enough comfort to go to sleep in it. A lot of people don't like it because ain't Bible. You bring the change. And you're going against something that we're not accustomed, that we have grown accustomed to. Don't you know this is the very reason why, this is the only reason why they wanted to kill a man like Jesus Christ, who only extended to them love and grace and mercy? You gotta ask, what made them angry enough to kill a guy who only extended to them great tidings and joy? Healings, miracles, he fed people he didn't even know. He was bringing deliverance. No ever greater love have we ever seen in humanity like that of Jesus Christ. No fault. But it drove some people, well, what made some people want to take his life? Because he was coming against things that they have become accustomed to.
Exactly.
The reason why they said, we would rather release a murderer in your place.
Wow.
Is because though we know the murderer is a murderer, he still fits well in society.
Oh, no.
One of the things that God had told me just about ministry at large and as a whole is that one of the things in church at large, we become masters of building buildings, we become masters of preaching, teaching, we become great orators, we become good administrators, we become good at putting things together. We become good at a lot of things as Christians. We become great singers and a lot of things like that. But one of the things that we have lacked and that we haven't really tapped into, we've learned how to do all those, but we haven't learned how to simply be. together.
Well,
Yeah. See, well, what's coming, the thing that's going to save us all is that we learn how to be together. Simply be together. If we can just learn how to actually be together. And if you go over all of those fruits of the Spirit, they are there to be the glue for us staying together, not just simply congregating. You see, there's a difference in between a congregation and a community. A congregation just gather. A community exists together. Amen? And so we just have to be more mindful about that because, again, our jewels, what God is going to get done in the earth realm through us, is going to be to the degree that we're able to exist together and show the world how we function, just loving on each other. Our last segment is reasons why many will not accept the many facts about the current state of the church. Because a lot of people is in denial. And there are some people, they will continue to do religious things for religious sake, even if Jesus ain't involved. One of the reasons why people would look at this ministry, I have many people who look at this ministry. I have people, white people, old white people, people who've been preaching for years, preaching longer than I've been alive. They look at this ministry and say, man, this is God, this is whatever. But again, they won't be associated with it. Or they would even neglect it or deny it. Some of them know it's true, but they deny it. Let's talk about the reasons why. Fear of man more than God.
well.
Literally, most people, most leaders and most church people fear the men that they see more than God himself. And you want to know what's evident about that? Because more of us are not taking risks. More of us are not doing whatever it takes to make sure that our families and our friends and our co-workers are safe. So we'll hush our mouth just to keep the peace.
Come on, crossing on my street.
We'll hush our mouth just to keep the peace.
Come on, sir.
We'll do it.
Come on, sir.
Fear of man more than we fear God. Unhealthy loyalty and personal comfort over Christ.
Wow.
The Bible says, we read a Bible that says, be faithful even unto death.
Even unto death.
But I find it highly unlikely that you would die for this gospel and you'll die for Jesus if you won't live for him. It don't mix. If you're not willing to be looked at and be criticized for Christ, which he let us know, it is to his glory that we'll be criticized because we bear his name. But you got some saints so now that they become so weak that our goal has become to avoid controversy. Now, this is one right here. That's the biggest one. The one that I'm about to say is one of the biggest reasons. It's one of the biggest levels of confusion with what we teach, with what I teach to leaders, when I help leaders out, when I help pastors out, and over in the Greensboro area, and when I do some mentorship and a lot of different things like that. This one that I'm about to show you is the one that gets them most of the time. It gets a lot of the Christian saints most of the time. No, regardless of how they've been abused in the system that we call church, they still cling on it, and they still have trouble embracing this ministry for this very reason right here.
Wow.
God did use it.
That's it.
I thank God for coming up in the church. It gave me my foundation. It made me who I am today. So I'm not throwing it all away to the garbage. Because God, not only can he use it, he used it for my life. Make sense?
Makes sense.
God did use it. He used it. But here's our mistake. God can use anything. God used a donkey. He used a whoremonger. He said, I will use rocks if I need to. Because here's the thing we need to understand about being used by God. We put too much emphasis on being used by God. And so what we do, we've Christian folks who have been used by God. And we made them popes and different things. And we say they can never do no wrong in their eyes because they've been used by God before. But here's the thing about being used by God. Being used by God doesn't carry as much merit as we like, because you only have to be saved by God to be used by God. So here's the thing with the church structure. Just because God used it doesn't mean he's in favor of it. But here's what God using, not only the church and anything, says about God. Because it doesn't speak to how good whatever he uses is. He's using me now. I understand this. That don't speak to how good Crawley is. But it doesn't speak to how good the thing that he uses is. It just speaks to how all redemptive he is.
That's right.
God is a redeemer. And because he is a perfect Lord, he can use whatever he want to use. Our mistake is we start worshiping the thing that he uses instead of worshiping the one who uses. Does that make sense? And I look at people who say, yeah, but the church paid my kids, helped pay for my kids to go to college. And Pastor did this. He bailed me out when I couldn't pay my light bill. And Jesus, I saw he did miracles in the church. And he did that. And he gave me friends that I never had before. And all of that may be well and true. Why? Because God can use it. He is still using the broken system of religion that we all have been a part of and maybe still be a part of. But we need to understand that just because he used it, don't make the mistake that he favors it.
Just because he used it.
Just because he used it. And I've talked to people. They get blocked right there. They're like, yeah, but I remember the time when the prophet came to the church and what they said over my life was true. God used it. And that don't necessarily mean he favors it. Here's the thing that's tricky about all these three. They all kind of mess with Jesus to a certain degree. They like Jesus to a certain degree. Problem is, they raise themselves up as gods above Jesus, that Jesus don't have permission to bust up the way that they flow. They like Jesus, they'll preach him. They even preach sound doctrine. But see, Jesus, we don't give you permission to bust up our religious ways, our traditional acts, and our denominational structures. So therefore, you ain't Lord. You may be second in command, but you ain't first. Because we won't let you do anything until you get permission from these three things. For a time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. Now, a lot of times at first glance, we think this is talking about unsaved people who reject even listening to the word. But what we need to understand is that there's one word in there that changed that whole definition of that scripture. And that is endure. It didn't say people will reject. It said people won't endure sound doctrine. Endure means a process. So you know what endure means? Let's talk about what endure means. This is a definition of endure. Endure means to experience pain or suffering for a long time. To undergo as hardship, especially without giving in. To remain firm under suffering or misfortune without yielding. That's what endure means. So when we go back to the scripture, when it's talking about those who won't endure sound doctrine, it's very well talking about those who call themselves Christians, who agree with the word, who amen the word every Sunday, but they won't dare endure the process of becoming what it says we can become. That's what that scripture is talking about. It's talking about the folks who amen it, the folks that agree with it. But when it says that, when you telling me I got to go through a process of making this church right, I may have to go through a process of losing members. I may have to go through a process of making folks upset because they love tradition and their religion so much. I got to go through all that because I counted up all that costs. I'm not willing to endure sound doctrine. And we think that it's just talking about the folks who don't come to church who, I don't want to hear that word. They're included in that, but they're not concluded that that's just all that those people are talking about. It's talking about us who agree with the word. How many folk agree with the word, but they don't want to say and do what the word says, say and do? Amen. Even us as leaders. We got to endure this thing. That God, for you I live, and I don't care, I'll lose everything for your cause. That's what we should be going to. Even though we may not be there, but that's a good mentality to try to have. To endure sound doctrine.